Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a DIY Dollar Tree farmhouse hanging planter, plant hanger. I was inspired by this from countrydoor.com and it was $32 and I was like, heck no, we can make that for about 5, 6, I don't know. So we're going to use 3 of these planters, but you can use any long bucket planters that you want. We're going to use 2 of the 9-foot nautical ropes. Again, it's just to make it easy for you. If you have the other one, go ahead. Then we're going to use some dowels. Depending on your planter, you might have to get the long ones from Walmart, but the Dollar Tree does sell 6-inch ones. I have not been able to find them in a very long time, so I went ahead and I cut down some the Walmart dowels, but I'll show you that in a minute too. Now, the inspiration piece was just about as long as this one, about 4.5 feet long. But again, if you find the 13-foot rope and you want to hang 4 planters or you want to make them more spread out, absolutely go ahead. We're just going to use this entire 2 pieces of rope to make it. It's going to end up being about 4.5 feet long, a little less, maybe about 4 feet long, and it's plenty. Trust me. But what I want to do is I just want to straighten the rope out. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just opening it all and I'm running it through my hands to get all the twists and knots out because we want it to lay flat to make the next part easy. Okay? So what we're going to do then is fold both ropes in half together. And then we're going to make sure we lay all of the ropes flat at the top. And then we're just going to tie it into a knot. One of our noose hoops that we always make a hanger for, out of jute, we're just going to kind of do the same thing out of rope, and 4 strands of rope. Now, as you see here, I'm manipulating them so that they all lay flat and even and straight and we get a pretty knot. That's not necessary. That's just me and being particular and the aesthetic that I'm going for. It's, just me being particular. So you just want to work it out until it's all nice and flat and even and you have all 4 ropes coming down. Now, I've actually just taken 2 that are next to each other. They're probably 2 halves of the, opposite ropes, which is fine. But you'll see we're just going to take all 4. We're going to lay them flat. And I'm trying to decide here how low I want the buckets to hang. Now that is 100% dependent on your aesthetic, how long your ropes are, how big your buckets are. That's why I'm not giving you, I will give you actual measurements that I used, but I'm not giving you actual measurements to use because you might have a different thing going on. But what I did basically is I laid the bucket on the rope. I said, okay, this looks pretty good. And then what I did was once all of the ropes were laying flat and even, and make sure they're all even coming off the knot that way. Okay? Once they're all even, you know exactly where you want them to go. You're just going to draw a Sharpie line straight across. And again, yours doesn't have to be Sharpie. I held up duct tape there a second. You can use duct tape if you want to. I find the Sharpie much easier. You just want to mark where you need your knot to be so that all of them are even. You will see the Sharpie, so if you have a different way you want to, you really don't see the Sharpie because once you put the twig in, you're going to cover it, but you're going to tie the knot below the Sharpie, just at the top of the Sharpie basically. I'll show you here. Then you just want to tie a knot, just like you would tie your shoes. The only thing I'm going to ask you to remember is tie the same knot for all 12 knots. Okay, so if you decide to do an overhand all 12 times. If you do an underhand all 12 times. Basically, whatever kind of knot you do it all 12 times. And then you don't want to pull it all the way tight, but you do want to work it up. What I have there in my left fingers is I'm holding the black Sharpie mark, and I'm making sure I tie the knot up to my other fingers. It just makes it that much easier. And I'm not pulled it tight, because once we get the 2 corresponding knots, we're going to go ahead and put the stick in. Okay? Now, I told you I did not have the sticks from the Dollar Tree. I only had these from Walmart, but I recommend them because not only they're 97 cents and you get long ones, but your buckets may be wider than mine. 6 inches would have been enough for these buckets from the Dollar Tree, but if you decide to get a bigger bucket or a narrower bucket, you might have to go with some different measurements. But I've cut mine in half, and that makes them 6-inch dowels anyway. And then what I'm doing is I'm feeding them into the 2 corresponding knots and then tightening down on them. They still will slide in there, so that if you Know for 100% sure that you're only going to use these particular buckets in this particular hanger for the rest of your life. Then once you have it all together, you can go ahead and glue them, the dowels to the knots. You can do that if you want to, but I wouldn't do that until you hang it, and we'll get to that when we get to that part. I'll talk more about that when we get to that part. And now you're just going to repeat with the corresponding knot for the other two on the other side. And if you notice, when I had all four of them laying down, I picked the two that naturally laid next to each other. I made them together, and then I let the other two that naturally laid together. And I did that on purpose. I don't want it to cause twisting. That's what will prevent it from twisting or getting all mangled on you or tangled on you. And I also was mindful of which rope I used to be sort of in the front. So while it was laying four ropes next to each other, I took the two sections and I took the right rope and made sure that that was the front, and then the left rope of the pair was the back, and then the second pair I did the same thing. The right rope was the front and the left rope was the back, and that'll also keep it from twisting. Okay? Now what I'm doing is I'm going to go find where we're going to put our second set of knots. And all I did was I measured from the top knot to the top of the first knot, the top hanger. Sorry guys, I measured from the top hanger to the top of the first set of knots, and it was 11 inches. So I went ahead and I made it 11 inches. I measured from the bottom of the next knot, and 11 inches is where I put my mark. And I did the same thing. I made sure I laid all four ropes down nice, flat and even and straight. This way you don't have to worry about if it's going to be crooked or anything. If you can mark it evenly and knot them evenly, then you won't have any problems hanging them evenly. Okay? So this is where I'm showing you how I came to the conclusion that 11 inches was good. All right. Now, while you're measuring and marking, you can push the knots together on the stick, as you see that I'm going to do here. It just makes it a little easier to get the ropes to lay next to each other. All right, and then mark all four ropes again, and then you're going to repeat the process 2 more times. Of course, I love you guys, and many of you have told me you like to listen to me tell you tips and tricks on here, so I'm just going to talk while we do that. So this was going to kind of be like a macrame project, but then I realized it's really not. It's just a few knots. The inspiration piece actually has these plastic bars with holes drilled in them, and then the rope is through the hole and then knotted. But I said we could do this with dowels. Dollar Tree sells dowels, and this will hold any kind of weight. That's fine. The other thing is the inspiration piece had drainage holes and a plastic liner. So if you want to actually use this for live plants outside, that's 100% fine. You know, we've put holes in the bottom of these buckets before using a piece of wood and a hammer and a screwdriver. That's so easy to do. You don't even have to worry about taking out your drill. You just punch a few holes with an awl or a Phillips head screwdriver. It'll be great. And then add a liner to it. You could probably cut up a core mat from Dollar Tree as well to be like a liner if you wanted to put live plants in here. Or you could just put the drainage holes and put little pots of potted plants in there. Either one of those would be fine. Now the inspiration piece was galvanized as well, so of course keep that in mind as far as what buckets you want to use if you go for that look. I also wanted to point out that I used 2 buckets that have the writing and one that does not, and I think they look very nice together. I was going to say they look okay to me, but obviously if you want to go ahead and add all 3 of the same buckets, if you want to take the printing off, you can, just to make them all look the same. You want to take the shiny bucket and regalvanize it, whatever your heart's desire. Okay? Now, there is one thing that I will add to the end that I don't show on the video, is when I was hanging my buckets, I did notice that the buckets that I used, the flowers that I used were artificial flowers and didn't have any weight to them. So it was causing my ropes to kind of like flow in the wind. the one thing that I did do after the fact, after I videotaped this, because I videotaped it and filmed it all in my house, and then I went ahead and hung it outside. The Once I hung it out in the wind, the ropes kind of wanted to splay apart a little bit. So all I did was along the back, I took a piece of jute, I tied it between the two back knots, just at whatever length that I wanted the ropes to be at. And that kept the ropes from splaying apart. Basically, the two sides, it kept them from coming apart. I don't know how the inspiration piece handled that. It could be just because their buckets are so weighty and they have live plants in them. I'm not 100% sure because I did not buy this for $32. You know that, right? Okay. I hope you guys know that. So of course, if you wanted to add any decorations to this, if you wanted to reinforce these knots with some jute just to like make it look pretty, if you wanted to put any kind of bows or ribbons on there, obviously guys, I totally encourage 100% personalization. You guys know that about me. I just try to give you inspiration. I love for you guys to take it and run with it. That's actually why I do this. Okay? So what I've decided to do at the very bottom was cut the little pieces of tape off that they give you at the factory, and just to like untwist them a little bit just to start that fraying process. Because they have a knot in the bottom, they don't worry about them fraying apart. But I would like the wind to like blow them open. But you could brush them out. We've done that before on the channel too, where we frayed the knots at the frayed the rope at the end. Just keep untwisting, and it'll just eventually come into like almost all little tiny pieces of jute. So, because that's all this rope is made out of. All right. And I'm going to do that to all 4 of them. And if you notice, because we were so diligent about how we marked evenly and we knotted evenly and we used the same kind of knots, that these 4 pieces of rope that are hung over are just about the same size, which is perfect. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and make our flower arrangements. Now I'm doing artificial flowers. Again, if you're going to go ahead and use these as planters, you want to go ahead and make sure you have drainage holes, and proper drainage. You put rocks in the bottom and all those things that you need to do. But I'm doing just artificial. So I took a piece of foam block that I had from packing material and I cut it in thirds. And it's funny because that third block is bigger and the third bucket is wider too. It's kind of weird, but that's the shiny one without the writing. And then what I decided to do is just take all of the Walmart florals that I just got. Because they're plastic, I thought they would be better outside. The leaves aren't plastic of the one green like leafy flower, leafy thing that I got, the plant one, but the eucalyptus and the lavender here are kind of plastic. So I thought that they would be perfect for outside. Okay, I don't have to worry about fading or the wind tearing them or anything. So I just decorated the front because this is going to hang against a brick wall. And I put 3 lavenders, and then I went ahead and stuck 2 of the pieces of eucalyptus. And again, these are plastic eucalyptus between them. And not 3 lavenders, 3 bunches of lavender, 1 bunch in each bucket. I apologize. And then 1 bunch of eucalyptus divided amongst the 3 buckets. And then same thing with those green leaves. I put 2 green leaves in the back of each. I also put some of the moss, sheet moss that I was gifted, as well as some of the moss rocks down there. Okay. So I've just hung this. Like I said, the lighting outside was too harsh for me to hang it outside to film it. So I hung it where my clock scale goes. And I just want to show you how to do it. So basically you just want to balance. You want to make sure that the bucket is not sitting on the knots, but just sitting on the twigs between the knots. This way it will hang more evenly, okay? And then you want to make your way down. You're just going to feed in one side and the other. And because these already have the plants in them, I'm working around them. I'm moving the rope around the plants so it hangs more evenly, okay? And now you can kind of see here where it could give you like that splaying thing, or if you pulls your dowels out, because my dowels are a little short. Had I thought of it afterwards, I would have probably made them longer, especially that middle bucket. I told you it's a little wider than the other 2. I don't know why. But what I'm saying here, and I'll show you here, hold on. I've just tied a piece of jute to those 2 back knots. I've just connected those 2 back knots at the width that I want them to hang. And once I've fastened that bottom one, the top ones seem to be fine. But again, if you have your weight in yours, the weight pushing down on the dowels should keep the rope from splaying apart. But because mine weighs absolutely nothing, the artificial flowers weigh absolutely nothing, then that's where I'm having the difficulty. So keep that in mind if you decide to use artificial flowers in here. Okay? And that's it. So I really love this. I'm so glad we got to save so much money with buckets, even with the artificial flowers. It was only $8, $9 really. So I hope you really enjoyed this. If you do, give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share this video with friends and family, anybody who might be interested in making a hanging planter like this. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, and when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And don't forget to check out our vlog channel. There's a link to in the description box down below. And as always, you take care, God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye!